first of all, what does, unboxing or even unpacking the spirit even mean, right? I feel like for some individuals, some of these conversations, and here I'm talking about, people watching in the replay, or some of my clients that are at that, base level of I have no clue what's going on, right? People who need the help. It's like some of these conversations just go over their head because they're not at that level of awareness, and that's fine. We need to work to get you to that level of awareness. And so it's really, people don't know how to answer some of these questions, like how are you feeling, which is one of those gifts of interpreting those messages, the feeling of it, clairsentience. Where do you feel it in your body? Right? Are you getting goosebumps from a song? Well, what is the song telling you? Are you always cold? Are you feeling tension in your chest? So, if we don't understand that spirit comes in all of these avenues, then we don't know how to answer some of those questions. How are you feeling today? What do you think about this? Well, I don't even know. Like, where do I even begin? And one of the questions that I love to ask that tends to be received with a, let me think about it and get back to you because I've never thought about it before, is how does spirit come to you? How do you receive revelation? These are big questions that even in institutions, they talk about revelation as a gift of the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost or whatnot, but they don't instruct you how you are open to receive, or how do you even translate it. Not everybody has an inner monologue going on in their head, which means not everybody receives revelation from spirit as words like, hey, Graciela, what do you think about reaching out to Trinity today? And that's one of the ways that I like to check in on my clients, right? I'll think about them all of a sudden, and I know to interpret that as a prompting from spirit. So I'll grab my phone and check in on my client. How are you doing? And more often than not, it's always received with like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. Or how did you know to ask? Because I'm having a really bad day. And I'm like, I just know. I mean, at this point, I just know. But it's because clairaudience is one of those ways, right? Or clairsentience, how we feel it in our body. But, for some of us, it's also a visual thing, clairvoyance. So, do you receive revelation from spirit in more of a visual way? You can interpret people's body language, or you can interpret an image and feel something from an image or a photo. There's just so many ways, but education plays a huge part in how we get to know these things about ourselves, right? To then be able to work to get better, heal, change our lives forever. It's like our lives don't change without us. We change our lives, right? So it's so beautiful. I could talk about this all day. There's so many structures, and some of us really do thrive in structure, so that's fine. And some of us do thrive in very specific and certain boundaries. But at the same time, where there's boundaries, there's rigidity. And when it comes to spirituality and the soul, there has to be room to be fluid and to just be, right? So it's this is what I'm looking forward to discussing, because I belong to an organized religion and I love it, but at the same time it's like, how do I express my authenticity anyway, right? How do I just be me, even though I belong? I have to belong to myself as well. So there's so much there. And when it comes to my clients or my community, once they understand that there's room to flow, then everything starts flowing like magic. So it's so beautiful. And if you're boxed in, see, that's the thing about the box, is that if you're boxed in, there's no elevating. You're enclosed, right? So I'm very visual, so that's how I see it. All of my clients are so different, and all of the conversations I get to have with each is just, it's another perk to the polymath aspect of my own personality, is that my clients don't belong in a box either. And so when it came to niching down, I was like, I want to niche down, but I want to leave it open as well, right? I don't want to just focus on one demographic. I want them to walk away knowing that they have permission to be themselves. And permission is a huge word, because even from children, we always look at our parents for permission, spirituality as well. There's all these power dynamics. And so that's one of the boxes that we like to box ourselves in. It's like, I don't think I can do this. Well, you can. And if you need a permission slip, here it is. Right. I can believe it 100%, but I need you to believe it, because I'm not going to do the work for you. That's also very important with the coaching, industry. It's like most of the work gets done in between sessions, right? And so I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be cheering you on in between sessions. I mean, I do check in and all these things, but still, it's up to you. So I believe that you can do it. What is it going to take for you to believe that you can do it? That's one of the first questions to answer, because once we target that answer, we have something to go forward with, right? The journey into soul alignment. So this is one of the packages I offer, and it's like on the very first meeting, I call it radical acceptance. I'm like, let's go through this point of your life. Let's get to the point where you accept where you are right now, because that gives you the awareness to decide what you're going to change moving forward. What is it about boredom that you're really avoiding, right? It's like, oh, the fear that I'm not doing good enough. Well, then we need to unpack that. Where is this fear coming from? What is this fear telling you? Do you have some trauma from previous, instances in your life when you were not doing enough and somebody harassed you for it, right? And now you're traumatized. We think about trauma as only sexual abuse or a car accident or really big things, but trauma can be, you witnessing somebody else having a car accident, or you witnessing somebody else in a domestic dispute. Like, trauma is simply, honestly, I feel like it's anything that creates an imprint in your mind that creates a block. It could be anything. And we can call it trauma because it's getting in your way, right? And so when it comes to boredom, there's just so much. Oh, I don't like to sit quiet. Why? What's coming up that you are avoiding, right? Is it some truth that you don't want to face because maybe you're not ready? Let's get you ready, because if you want to change your life, you need to change it, right? What is the trigger telling you? What is the fear telling you? I mean, I feel like fear of the unknown is one of the most common ones. We don't do things because we don't know what the result will be, right? Well, fear of the unknown is easily solvable. All you have to do is research, learn, get to know the thing that in this moment you don't know about. Everything is rated nowadays. There's a review for everything online. We live in an era of complete abundance when it comes to learning some of these things. So, fear of the unknown, okay, well then get to know it. And so there's really a way to unpack things. And the beautiful thing is, I love, I come from a background in hospitality as well, right? So I've been a waitress, I've been a bartender, and my favorite, I was a casino croupier dealing blackjack, roulette, poker. I know, it was amazing. And the thing about being in the hospitality industry is that you really do learn what service is if you had never learned it before, right? You are there to perform a function that is in the service of this person, your patron, right? And so I feel like that has really resonated with me about coaching. It's like, I am here to serve you, but you need to know what to ask. You need to know We need to be able to put a name to things. What is exactly that is behind this trigger? What is this fear exactly about? This negative self-talk in your head, who is it? Is it your parent or your mom or your sibling or a mean teacher that you had when you were growing up? Let's put a name to it because, again, with radical acceptance or with awareness comes just so much. I mean, Deepak Chopra is the first one that wrote in one of his books, awareness is magic. And it's simply because once you put a name to it, how do you unsee it? There's no one seeing it. Now you have to work through it. In my own experience, so not only did I have a whole upbringing, that was toxic, and we're gonna bring it back to the spirit because it's a huge part of it. Um, but after that, I survived three toxic relationships that were toxic in all types of ways. So it's like I got to experience all of it, right? Before I finally met, my husband now, and I was already 30 when we met. So it was a long time, right? 3 decades of my life. And the thing about making that change or figuring out why is it that I keep going back to these men or to these relationships, right? It's not just women that are victims. It really has to do with your essence, and in most cases, it has to do with the fact that you don't know who you are at your core, spiritually speaking. And, this also brings me to the conversation about highly sensitive empaths, because most empaths, which is a neurodivergence in itself, 20 to 30% of the population are highly sensitive, which is a huge number if you think about it. I'm talking about you being a teacher of a classroom of 25, at least 6 of those children may be highly sensitive. So, do you even know what that is, right? So, there's just so much there, right? And the thing about empaths, which is usually the other side of the narcissist, and then the empath tend to get, mingled together because the empath is that source of energy for the narcissist, right? And so if you don't understand those sensitivities and how your body maneuvers that hyperstimulation of your senses, then if you don't know that, again, awareness, the word of the day, then you don't know how to correct, how to course correct, how to change lanes, how to strategize something different. Same thing with your values. If you don't know your values, what are your values? Oh, I value hope. I value spirituality. I value prudence. I value, it's not about money and I value, comfort. No, no, no. I'm talking about real personality traits. If you don't know your values, then how are you going to know what values to look for in another one? It's like awareness is the key to everything, but sometimes we need to have someone guiding us to that awareness. And life coaching has changed my life, honestly, because not only do I get to guide people along, but it keeps me honest, right? I need to do my work to be able to figure out my life and be aware of my own things, right? I need to be able to look at my husband and say, this argument is not about you. It's codependency coming up in me. So let me just go deal with that because it's not you, it's me and my trauma, right? But if I wasn't aware and if I wasn't open to understand these things with objectivity, it's not personal, then I wouldn't be able to work through them. And I love my work. Confusion in itself is telling you something. It may be telling you that you're not being honest about something. What are you not being honest about? And the thing about spirituality, the thing about success, the thing about love is that it starts within. If my client is struggling in their relationship, the first thing I want to unbox or unpack is their self-love, because you can tell the whole world in social media that you love yourself, but the proof is in the pudding, and so I want to get to the pudding and mess it all up, right? And dig through it and see, and then people, well, what does self-love even mean? Self-love is three different parts, and honestly, you can just Google this and it's there. So it's not like I'm making it up and it's like Graciela Moore invented it. You need to be able to check three boxes: the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual. Where are you in these ways? Oh, well, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, let me provide a mirror. Reflection is one of the biggest things in coaching. The physical aspect doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go to the gym. No. The physical aspect means, are you taking your vitamins? Are you drinking water? No, all I drink is soda. Well, then there you go. You're not taking care of your physical. Okay, so now let's go to the psychological. Are you on any medication for your mental wellness? Yes. Have you taken it? No. Okay, well, there you go. When was the last time that you called your therapist? Oh, I don't even remember. Well, there you go. I mean, it's all these things that once we do them, adulting, it's it's complicated. It's really complicated. I know, that's right. I know, trust me. I want to be painting and coloring with my child all day long, right? Or I want to be able to sleep all day, and it's not even depression. Maybe I need a nap, right? And so it's when we do these things, we move the wheel along, and it's like, oh, I want to get into the flow. Well, then you have to be the flow. It's not just some elusive thing that you get to. You have to be in the flow, and things flow when you do one thing after the other. That's the flow of things. So, yeah, it's so interesting how we're not taught these things, but in all honesty, it's created this industry that allows us to be able to be those teachers, because we get into the habit of thinking that motivation leads to action. And that's some people do function that way, and that's wonderful. People like me tend to be kind of like naturally optimistic, so I can motivate myself even with just a pep talk in the mirror, and that works. So let's get it done. But others really need to take that first step first, and then they see a change, and then their brain registers that reward system that says, oh, look, something happened. I wonder what's going to happen if I take the second step. And all of a sudden you're motivated. So it's not the same for everybody. That's another thing about unboxing the spirit, is understanding that life doesn't look the same for everyone. Motivation doesn't look the same for everyone. Christianity doesn't come up in the same way for everyone. Spirituality, like, you need to know, how does it work for you? And experimentation plays a big role in that, because we don't learn from someone else's testimony that something works, or that something is real, or that something is beautiful. We want to look at it, step in it, feel it, try it on for size, and then really decide. But if you don't do those things I just mentioned, you're never going to know for sure, right? So it does take action. Strategic, that's the beautiful word there. Strategic, because we don't have any time to waste, right? What took me 30 years to figure out, I want my clients to figure out in at least 6 months, and then live a beautiful life. And that's part of the process.